Started again with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Good morning, everybody. I will be wearing my mask throughout the meeting except when I am speaking. For those of you who do not know, it's sad to inform you that Representative Jerry Carter of Rockingham County has died. I know that I talked to him a few weeks ago and that he'd been struggling, but our condolences and prayers go out to his family today and to people all across the state. We appreciate his service, and we can adjourn this meeting in his memory this morning. I'm going to read the ethics awareness reminder that we always read. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it's the duty of every council member to avoid both conflicts of interest and the appearances of conflict. If any council member has any known conflict of interest or is aware of facts that might create the appearance of such a conflict with respect to any matters coming before the council today, please identify the conflict or the facts that might create the appearance of a conflict to ensure that any inappropriate participation in that matter be avoided. If at any time any new matter raises a conflict during the meeting, please be sure to identify it at that time. We now have before us and have been distributed to you the minutes of the prior meeting of June 1st of 2021. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
Mr. Treasurer, before we go into the approving of the minutes, I'd like to amend the agenda for today under other matters to put in item number 4, which is to talk about the employment crisis in North Carolina. And I'd like to make that motion to add it to the agenda today.
Mr. Treasurer, it's important that members of this state council get notice of this, and this is why we created an agenda. So I'm not going to recognize that motion at this time. During the roundtable, be glad to talk to you about it and be glad for you to say whatever you want to the council.
Governor, I believe this is a public board and we have a governance and rules of order regarding corporate governing boards. So you're not recognizing adding an employment crisis item to the agenda of the Council of State.
That's correct.
On what basis?
On the basis that it was not submitted to us and it's not on the agenda. If we start that, then we've got significant problems. You particularly like to do a lot of research on these issues, and members of the Council of State appreciate that heads up and notice. So we're just not going to hear that today.
Well, I make a motion.
Not to put that on the agenda, sir. No. So
I move to approve the minutes.
There's a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The minutes have been approved. Mr. Treasurer, interest matters and a bond resolution.
Governor, interest matters. The stiff interest rate was 0 for the month. And we'll proceed to go into the resolution and ask the governor to recognize Sharon Edmondson, who's the director of the Local Government Commission. As you call on her officially, I just want to say, and Auditor Wood and Secretary Marshall, as well as Secretary Penny would agree with this, that the Local Government Commission has many duties and responsibilities. And the plate has never been fuller at the Local Government Commission. And one of the responsibilities is to issue debt on behalf of the taxpayers of North Carolina. And Sharon is the executive director, secretary of the Local Government Commission, asked that she be recognized to discuss the Garvey issuance by the North Carolina Department of Transportation.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm here to discuss the resolution on the agenda for the 2021 Garvey bond issuance. We are preparing to sell new money Garvey bonds to accelerate some eligible transportation construction projects across the state. The par value on the bonds will not exceed 300 million. The size of the issue has been decreased somewhat to make sure that it stays within both legislative parameters for this type of bond. The Garvey program, as most of you know, was originally approved by the Council of State and the LGC back in 2007. These are revenue bonds solely supported by a pledge of federal highway revenues, and all the projects will be included in the State Transportation Improvement Plan, the STIP plan, and all are eligible, of course, for the Garvey funding under the federal agreement. The anticipated rating on these is typical for a federal funded credit, an A2 from Moody's, AA from S&P, and an A+ from Fitch. They will have a 15-year maturity, and we're expecting a true interest cost of 1.74%. Our expected pricing date is August 25th with a mid-September close date. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Treasurer, would you like to make a motion?
I will make a motion, Governor. And doing so, I would like to report what was in the North State Journal, which comes out every week, to talk about the Department of Transportation. This issue that's before you today. Secretary of Transportation called and talked about the needs of the DOT, and we're glad that we're able to meet those. But in case you haven't seen this, it comes out every week. It's called the Cash Report, and the DOT, you should be proud to report, has nearly $2.5 billion in cash today, in cash and bond proceeds. Reserve cash is almost $600 million. Unreserved cash balance total is over $5 billion at the Department of Transportation, a far different picture than 2 years ago. And lastly, Governor, this is an indication of a DOT who's trying to figure out what's right, get it right, and keep it right, not only for the taxpayers, but also for the vendors and the road using public. And with that, I recommend this Garvey issuance to the Council of State for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Auditor Wood. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Fire insurance matters. Commissioner Causey.
Thank you, Governor. On the State Property Fire Insurance Fund, on page 5, see our total income was $31.5 million, but we did have $18.5 million in losses paid in reinsurance. So we actually paid out more in expenses than we took in. So it's down to $14.2 million on the fund balance. We hope to build that back up. And on the next page, page 6, down at the bottom, that loss that was paid was under $10,000. It was $4,751 to the DHHS state lab. And at the top on item 1, this is Department of Agriculture, the Oxford Tobacco Research Station fire that happened on October 2nd of last year, asking for approval to pay $34,268.73, which is their third submission on that loss. So I move that we pay that claim.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second by the Secretary of State. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We will now recognize Heather Horton, North Carolina Marine Industrial Park Matters.
Good morning, Heather Horton, Department of Commerce, here on behalf of the North Carolina Marine Industrial Park to request your approval for a lease agreement between the Park Authority and the Department of Environmental Quality and Marine Fisheries, 5-year lease with 1 5-year renewal option so that the marine fisheries can continue to store their materials related to their oyster shell program. This was approved at the Parks Authority's May 25th meeting.
Questions for Ms. Horton? Hearing none, is there a motion? Motion by Secretary of State, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Troxler. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Horton. We'll now hear from Heather Fulgham for Board of Transportation right-of-way matters.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, Council. Department of Transportation presents 27 items for your consideration. All of these items have been approved by the Board of Transportation and the Secretary. There is one item of correction. Under item 1, sale of surplus right-of-way to adjacent owners. Rogers Road 3415 LLC is now known as Waite Avenue 98 LLC. So we have a name change there. I believe it's 10
Page 10.
on the index sheet for 10 and also on 13, the item sheet. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have about any of the items.
Questions for Ms. Fulgham? Hearing none, do I hear a motion? Attorney General moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by State Auditor. Further discussion or debate? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. We now have Tim Walton, State Property Matters.
Good morning, Governor, members of the council. I have a couple of items to pull this morning. On page 33, under disposition by deed, I'm pulling items 1 and 2 on page 33. With that, I have 27 items for your consideration this morning and 1 item for information.
Did you pull item 38 too, both on page 38, the severance of timber? I'd like to have that one pulled also.
Okay,
Is that the Layton County
the Bladen County.
one, Mr. Commissioner?
Page 38, it's item number 1, severance of timber.
Yes.
And and then on 33, the transportation right away.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got it.
So that leaves 26 items for your consideration and 1 item for information this morning.
Are there questions for Mr. Walton? All right, do I have a motion as amended by the removed items, both by Mr. Walton and the Commissioner of Agriculture? Do you have a motion?
So moved.
State Auditor moves approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for, is that Commissioner Dobson? Commissioner Dobson seconds it. Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Walton.
you. Thank you.
We now have Heather Moorfield, who's going to make a presentation on UNC healthcare system matters and transactions.
Good morning, Council. Thank you for having me this morning. UNC Health brings 7 matters for your review. Happy to answer any questions that you may have about them.
This is for informational purposes. Any questions for Ms. Moorfield? Thank you, Ms. Moorfield.
Thank you.
We now have recognized Thomas Johnson for Mitchell Community College issue.
Good morning, Governor, members of Council of State. I'm Tom Johnson with the law firm of Williams Mullen here on behalf of Mitchell Community College, and Dr. Tim Brewer is here as well, the president of Mitchell Community College. It's just an approval of an acquisition of an old automobile dealership that has some environmental issues on it. No use of state funds are, as required by statute, or being used to resolve any of the environmental issues, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Johnson? Do you have a motion for approval?
So move.
Mr. Troxler moves to approve. Secretary of State seconds. Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. All right, we'll now have our roundtable discussion. Madam Secretary of State.
Governor, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Governor, for your continued focus on ensuring that more North Carolinians are vaccinated. I want to share with you some encouraging news that we announced about 10 days ago and flesh out a little bit. Every county in North Carolina, all 115 up in the number of new businesses created in their office. Some counties seeing a growth as much as 200%. It's particularly gratifying that several of these counties with dynamic were tier 1 counties. And when you compare the fiscal year of July 1, 2019 to 2020 with the fiscal year we just ended, new business growth statewide is up 80%. In just 7 months, ending July 31, we have 110,000 new business creation. That blows by what we did in the entire year in 2019. That year it was 100,000. Last year's record of 127,000 will be eclipsed sometime later this month or around Labor Day. Now, we are surveying these businesses on their 1 year monthly, the month that they were incorporated, their 1 year anniversary. And so far that we've learned that 89% of these new businesses from 2020 are still in business, with 22% reporting that they have 3 or more employees. North Carolina is truly entering a new era of entrepreneurship, with 81% of the respondents indicating they launched their business in search of new opportunities, while just 12% report that starting a new business was a result of a job loss due to the pandemic. This is promising news for our economy and great news for the general fund and appropriation process. The agency generated more than $140 million for the general fund in fiscal 2020 and close to $160 million at the end of this year, all on appropriation of $14.6 million. As you can imagine, this historic level of volume is putting unprecedented demands on the agency, which is why this year's budget request focused on the 84% of our employees who are below salary midpoint, and most in the first quartile, and updating our technology software and hardware through the department. Governor Cooper, thank you for recognizing the importance of providing professional compensation in your budget and making these important market adjustments. Providing good customer service to the business community protects North Carolina's business-friendly reputation and nurtures the exceptional North Carolina entrepreneurial spirit we want to see thriving. So thank you all very, very much.
Thanks for that positive report. We're doing yet another economic development announcement in just a couple of hours.
Great.
So, thanks. Commissioner Troxler.
Governor, it's hard to believe, but fall is approaching, and a month from this coming Friday, we will have the Mountain State Fair in Fletcher. Then, of course, October 14th begins the State Fair. So it's all hands on deck to get these 2 events planned. We are having trouble hiring temporary workers for both fairs, so we've got to continue to work on that. And I think the consulate of the UK met with you last week.
And met with you too, I understand.
Yeah, and I thought we had a really good meeting, so we will be concentrating as we get a free trade agreement with UK on trade with them and agricultural products. There's a lot of different things that we can furnish them. Sweet potatoes right now is a huge market for us, and we think there are other markets we can develop. So I'm very hopeful that this will happen fairly quickly.
I look forward to working with you on that. A lot of good things that are going on there between our state and Great Britain. So it's good to know. Thank you. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Governor. I'll start my remarks with a story. A person walks into a Taco Bell and orders $100 worth of food. And the cashier says, "Will that be for here or to go?" And the person says, "Well, you don't think I'm going to eat all that here, do you?" And the cashier says, "I don't know your life." So I'm about to give you a story of what's happening with the employment crisis in North Carolina and the lives of business owners across the state. Number one is to tell you that employers cannot operate without workers. The members of this council of state cannot operate without workers either. So it's not just about the ag commissioner's responsibilities or the labor commissioner's responsibilities constitutionally or statutorily. It's about the ability of us to even hire people in our own agencies, which has a detrimental impact on essential services. I'm sounding the alarm because we're in a crisis in North Carolina. We're in an employment crisis. And what's so disconcerting to people of all races, all creeds, and all colors across North Carolina who are saying the same thing, and that is that they cannot continue to pay into a system that forces them to compete against other federal benefits by taxing them and the workers who are there, and use that money to pay those that aren't working. That's where we are. And whatever political party you're a member of, or race, creed, and color you're a member of, what people may disagree on is what level of government we need to have, but what they totally agree on is what level of government we end up with. We need it to work. We're facing a double jeopardy here in many instances, where we're taking money from taxpayers like businesses and then making them pay for a system that prevents them from hiring individuals. For those of you who may not be as deep into the unemployment issue as I've been over the last several years, the unemployment system of North Carolina is a captive insurance company. It gets its money from premiums paid by the employers of this state. And as I was coming through Clemens the other day, on the right side of Highway 158 was a billboard that all of you have seen across this state that says, "We are hiring immediately." And on the left side of the road, going down a little bit further, there was another billboard for a business governor that said, "If your service is slow, don't blame the people who chose to show up for work." This is exactly what we are facing in this state right now. We are facing an employment crisis. And this is no longer about generosity. It's about justice. Now, in your issues with this particular topic, you've talked about the fact that these federal unemployment benefits are going to expire soon. I'd like for you to give a commitment to me as the Chief Financial Officer and to the Council of State that in September, when these federal benefits are expected to expire, that you will honor that. Secondly, that if you decide not to honor that, that you would have that you would bring the matter of voting on whether to extend federal unemployment benefits back in front of the Council of State. If we're really going to be a true public deliberative body and we're facing an employment crisis in North Carolina, I think the Council of State members deserve that. I know a lot in this room don't like what I say or how I say it. But as I said before, this is something that's going on across the state of North Carolina. And maybe some are scared to tell you about this crisis, Governor, but I'm not. 75%, according to Triangle Business Journal recently, of the employers of this state say that they cannot get the people to run their business. If you think what these businesses have been through over the last 14 months, facing the threat of COVID, trying to keep their businesses going, I don't think any of them slogged through all of those issues over the last 14 months, fully expecting that when they were able to reopen their business, they couldn't do so because they could not find the workers. So I'm reporting this to you because it, to me, is a serious concern. This is not a premonition. This is a fact. And the other fact that I'll leave this group with is the fact about inflation. It's very simple. I learned this at Winston-Salem State and UNC Greensboro. There are only three things that make up inflation: the cost of labor, which I've just talked about, the cost of material, which you all know about if you've tried to buy anything recently, and the cost of money. And the fact is that we have a system right now where inflation is a thief. And the people, the group that gets thieved more than anyone else in the state when we have inflation is the lower and fixed income individuals of North Carolina. This employment crisis is a serious crisis. We need to come together as a Council of State and have an open discussion about this employment crisis, not only as it is impacting us as employers of people, but also how it's impacting the future profitability and viability of North Carolina.
Thank you, sir. Superintendent Truitt.
Good morning, Governor. Thank you. I'm really excited that I'm able to report that we've had an incredibly robust summer school experience for so many students across our state. Summer schools have by and large come to an end, and now teachers and administrators are getting ready already for the new school year to start. But I would be remiss if I didn't, first of all, thank those teachers who decided to continue what was already an incredibly difficult school year into the summer, to continue to allow students to not just remediate, but also have the chance to accelerate their learning. And what I'm especially pleased to announce is that an initial data collection shows that even in our smallest, poorest counties, we had even better participation in summer school than we did when students returned to school in March. And we are able to say that there are hundreds of students who actually graduated from high school because they were able to have the summer school experience. So thank you for signing that legislation. And we will be doing a more formal data collection to look at numbers of students who were identified by their schools as needing to participate in summer school and that extension learning, and then those who actually did participate. And we're anticipating that we will have had about a 75% participation rate for our summer learning extension. So I look forward to sharing that data at a later date. And the next time we meet, school will have started.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm excited about that, getting children in the classroom in person.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Causey.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I apologize, but I have to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you like to give a report before you leave?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Causey.
Thank you, Governor. And I thank you for adjourning today's meeting in memory of Representative Jerry Carter. We also had another elected official that passed away yesterday. The sheriff of Jones County, Sheriff Danny Heath, died suddenly. So let's all remember his family and people of Jones County in our thoughts and prayers. As I travel around the state, if I go to a meeting, or I try to leave early in the morning and make sure I have time to stop at a Bojangles, and usually at a Bojangles, there's a local community breakfast club. Sometimes it's a Hardee's, sometimes it's Biscuitville, sometimes it's the local restaurants like Amy Joe's Country Restaurant in Wilson, or Cox Family Restaurant in Morehead City. But at about every one of these breakfast clubs, as you all know, some of the smartest people in the world come to these breakfast clubs to meet and talk about the issues of the day and state. And I usually try to listen to what they're saying. And what Treasurer Falwell talked about is exactly what people are talking about, because every fast food place I've been to, every restaurant, everybody's got signs now hiring, they can't find workers. And this one elderly man at a Bojangles looked up and he made this comment. He said, if the government would quit handing out free money, we could get people to go back to work. And I had people, ask me to please relay this message to Raleigh, that I've had people actually go so far as to say we need to have a stop moratorium on all compensation for unemployment, to do something to force people to go back to work. Because I talked to a restaurant owner in Gaston County this week that said they never closed, kept working, but some of the employees went to draw unemployment. She called one of the young men that had been working for her and said, I can't come back. Said, I'm making over $1,200 a week. And I said, well, how are they doing that? She said, well, he's drawing the maximum unemployment from the state and the federal, plus working for cash under the table at different other restaurants and landscape. And so that is a topic that we hear about all the time. And so I think it is a real crisis. It's something we need to look at as elected officials. So thank you, Governor.
Sure. Mr. Attorney General.
Thank you, Governor, members of the Council of State. I'm really proud of my team at the Department of Justice. A couple weeks ago, end of the last month, we resolved our investigation and litigation with the three major drug distributors and Johnson & Johnson. It represents the second largest state settlement by attorneys general in the history of the United States, only exceeded by the tobacco settlement from the late 1990s. And many of you know this because you're out in communities and you see it. But the opioid epidemic has become only greater and a greater crisis since the pandemic. The media doesn't cover it as much because obviously the pandemic is paramount, but more people have died of an opioid overdose in North Carolina in recent years than died of COVID. And the number of people who've died of an opioid overdose has dramatically increased over the last year. So these funds, $26 billion, are going to be incredibly well utilized and sorely needed in local communities across the state. It resolves the litigation not only of the state of North Carolina, but the 80 approximate local governments that have also sued, and the funds will go to the state and to local governments. And regardless of where it goes, it has to be used to deal with this crisis. So it has to go to treatment services, to recovery services, to harm reduction strategies, to make a difference in the lives of the tens of thousands of North Carolinians who are struggling with this terrible, terrible disease of substance use disorder. And this settlement comes on the heels of resolutions we recently had with Purdue Pharma, McKinsey, Mallinckrodt, and when you put it all together, it's $33 billion for the nation. North Carolina is approaching $1 billion in resources, again, dedicated to dealing with the opioid epidemic. And my team at the DOJ has been integrally involved in bringing these very complex negotiations to resolution, and I could not be more proud of them. And I think if y'all knew how hard they've been working and how well they've been working, y'all would share my pride. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you very, very much, General. Commissioner Dobson.
Thank you, Governor. In addition to our safety award banquets in the fall, I'll be attending many county and regional fairs over the next few months. Our first one is the Drexel Fair in Burke County, which starts August 16th. Under Commissioner Troxler's leadership, North Carolina has a strong tradition of agricultural fairs, and I look forward to attending as many as I can throughout the fall. In addition to that, I want to recognize our elevator and amusement device inspectors. Many people know about the over 25,000 elevators that our inspectors inspect across our state, but those same inspectors also inspect our rides at our fairs as well. So I want to give a shout out to them because they'll be working really hard this fall. Our OSH division, changing gears, our OSH division has recently adopted the federal OSHA emergency temporary standard for COVID in the healthcare industry. As part of our state plan agreement with federal OSHA, our state is required to implement standards that are at least as effective as federal standards. We adopted the ETS in order to stay in compliance with our agreement. So we look forward, or I should say our OSH division has done a great job with creating educational materials and responding quickly to questions and concerns from the healthcare industry. So we look forward to working with them throughout the next couple of months. On a lighter note, I want to recognize Scott Mabry, our Assistant OSH Director. He was featured in an episode of Engineering Catastrophes on the Science Channel. Scott was interviewed as a subject matter expert regarding the pedestrian bridge that collapsed under construction at Wake Tech in late 2014. Scott represented North Carolina Department of Labor in such a professional manner, and the episode really showed the viewers the important work that our compliance officers perform. So I'm very proud of our staff and our compliance side at the Department of Labor. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Governor Robinson.
Thank you, Governor. First, let me say I was very close to Representative Carter. Talked to him on the phone. I guess it was last week, and comes as shock his passing. He was a very good man. He was a veteran. He was a pastor. He was a representative, and he was my friend. And you know, I'm still kind of in shock right now about his passing, and just encourage everybody here to pray for him, pray for his family, because it's a devastating loss for his community. He's a He's a fixture in this community. He's touched many lives, continues to touch many lives. So just please pray for his community, his family, and everybody that's, going to be affected by his loss. That being said, I agree wholeheartedly with what the treasurer said about this issue and Commissioner Causey. If we're going to talk about the health and strength and vitality and continued growth in North Carolina and its economy, that's something I'm very passionate about. I think we have a lot of opportunity in this state, particularly in the eastern part of the state, to expand economically. But we cannot do that if we don't have a strong work ethic in this state. We can't do that. Folks feel like they have an out on going to work. We can't allow the federal government to bribe people to stay at home. We can't do that. And I would hope that this council of state, and I would hope, Governor, that you would take this issue up to ensure that North Carolina protects itself from this happening in the future. We cannot allow this to happen because North Carolina is a great state and it can be even greater. But the only way it's going to be greater is if we keep our work ethic strong. We cannot do that by allowing people to stay at home. And some of these folks don't have a choice when it comes down to paying your bills and getting some money in the bank and between staying at home and working. Some of them are making the obvious choice that many of us might make. We can't do that. We can't do that. We've got to get people to go back to work. And we've got to protect ourselves in North Carolina from any moves that the federal government might do to the contrary, because the health of this state is going to depend on the work ethic of its people. We need to keep that strong. In order to do that, we need to end this moratorium and we need to protect ourselves from it in the future, from it ever happening again. So I would urge you, Governor, to please take this issue up and let's have an open and honest discussion about it so we can fix this problem. Thank you.
Charlie, do you have anything from the budget office? I know that you had some closeouts this week.
Yes, sir. Good morning. I'm pleased to give a quick update on the closeout of fiscal year 2021 and want to give a big shout out to all of your CFOs and COFOs around the state, as well as the state controller's office and my office for closing out last fiscal year quicker than any other time in my career. We were all finished up by the end of July. And given the tax date changes on revenues and tax date movement, the large infusion of federal money and being on the state fiscal year being on different than the federal fiscal year and how state and federal money works together, especially in the Department of Public Education, in the school system, as well as implementing a new financial management system in the state controller's office. You put all that together and we still closed out in record time, on time, and in great shape. And so a big shout out to the CFOs across the state who made this happen. I'm very, very proud of that. And something that just shows the bond rating companies and other that we're a AAA state and we manage and act like one, and I'm very, very proud of that. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Charlie, and appreciate the leadership you and your office have shown in this. And we know the General Assembly is meeting now, and pretty soon we'll have budget negotiations, and this may be one of the most important budgets that this state has ever passed as we are trying to put this pandemic in the rearview mirror and get our economy going strong. I'm pleased that the unemployment rate continues to drop and that jobs are created at a record pace in our state. I'm also urging each and every one of you to have your employees, the people you know, to get vaccinated. The very best way to improve our economy and to move us forward is to get this pandemic behind us. And we do it by getting people vaccinated. So you all are public figures. You're really important people out there. People listen to you. This not only can save the life of someone you're talking to, but it can also save the life of people they come in contact with. And unfortunately, we're seeing case after case after case of people who are unvaccinated, who are going into the hospital, going into the emergency rooms and dying. And this is continuing to increase. So I would ask you to push these vaccinations as hard as you can to people, to tell them how important it is. And in addition, addressing the economy, in about 4.5 weeks, these federal benefits that was talked about today will expire. And it's too late to give notice to the federal government anyway. North Carolina then will go back to one of the shortest and stingiest unemployment benefits systems in the country. It's critical that we get people vaccinated. It is critical that we invest in quality childcare, which has put so many parents in the middle here of having to take care of their children at home and wanting to go to work. And there are significant proposals in the General Assembly to pay our childcare providers more and to create more quality childcare spaces for people so that they can put their children there safely and that they can get into the workforce, which I know that many of them want to do. So I look forward to these continued discussions as we go forward. And
Just a point of personal privilege, I'd like to introduce my intern before we adjourn.
Yeah,
So,
no problem.
and anybody else who has interns here. Thank you. Tim.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Governor. Point of personal privilege, Robert Barr is our intern here, my intern this year. Robert, stand up in case your parents are watching. I'm sure they will be. Mother is a retired school teacher, father is a pastor. And Robert just graduated from North Carolina A&T on time. And he is enrolling at North Carolina State as a master's degree applicant. So he'll be an Aggie and a Wolfpacker. So just wanted to thank you, Governor, for recognizing Robert. Thank you.
Robert, I will not yell out a Aggie pride, but I can do it. I've done it many, many times. Today's probably not appropriate, particularly with my chief of staff back there. Any other interns that we want to? All right, we're all collectively will make a motion to adjourn this meeting in memory of Representative Jerry Carter and Jones County Sheriff Danny Heath. All in favor, say aye. Thank you all very much. Thank you all very much.